In the previous video, we looked at the company perspective in the Analytics tab. And right now we want to focus on the Aggregated and the Comparison view. So let's click on Aggregated. The first thing that you see here is that there is a button which allows us to configure what we would like to see in the following screens. So if you click on Configure, you can select a time interval and then you can select a set of cooling units you would like to see the results for. For example, let's imagine that for now, I just want to focus on my unit 5. So I select this one, I click OK, and then I click on Done. And so what this means is that this updates the information that is visualizable under users, crates, and impact. And let's look at this one by one. Under users, we see the number of cooling users or beneficiaries, operators for that specific cold room in that specific time period. Under crates, similar to what we've seen in the company view, we see the total number of crates, quantity, and operation, but we actually see more than that because we also see what is the CO2 equivalent emissions for the specific cold room and time period, and also what is the distribution in terms of check-in and check-outs, both for crates, but also for kgs for the specific unit. And this helps to understand, for example, what are the crops that arrive and are stored into the cold room the most. And then finally, there is the impact sections in which what we see is information about the occupancy, the food loss evolution, the revenue evolution, and also the cold room revenues from collecting the cooling fees, as well as the CO2 equivalent emission evolution. Important here, this is the number of surveys that has been used to calculate this number. And of course, the larger the number of surveys, the more reliable the data that is shown into this dashboard is going to be. So this is an important reminder of the fact that the surveys should be filled in as much as possible for that specific unit. If you want to change what you are looking at, you can always change what's the time period of interest, for example, as well as the set of units. Now, this is what we see in the aggregated view. If we see and navigate to the comparison view, we have similar visualizations options. So first we have to configure what we want to look at. In this case, it makes sense because it's a comparison to have more than one unit. And what we see in this case, we select also time period. And what we will select and see here are a set of sort of small tables that show you a comparison between what happens in the different units that you're looking at. And this is important to evaluate the performance across multiple units. The structure of this visualization is the same. So we have users, which is the information about, for example, the number of active cooling users, beneficiaries, operators, and then there is information about the crates and also the crop distribution for different crop types, as well as in the impact section, for example, what is the food loss evolutions across the units. And in this case, it's important that if you don't have enough information, then there is nothing that we can show. This is, for example, the case in which no surveys have been filled in for a set of user and crop types. Important to remember here is that what we see in the impact data that relates to the surveys is the aggregated data for all the users and crops that have been stored in that specific cold room, right? So we don't see the specifics of evolutions for a specific user, but just aggregated across all crop types and user types so that privacy concerns are addressed. Great. This concludes this section. One last thing that I want to mention is that, as we have seen also in the company view, everything that we are showing here is downloadable. So you can always download a PDF with the information that would actually see displayed here. And also that in this case, not only you can configure this page, but you can also sort depending on, for example, what's your metric of interest.